Welcome to Building Better Businesses, an ABA podcast. Learn firsthand from business owners who built successful ABA businesses. Utilize proven techniques and strategies to help your practice thrive. This is Building Better Businesses, an ABA podcast with Jonathan Mueller.
Dr. Jacob Bradley has his doctorate in OBM and is a founder, CEO, and executive recruiter for Psyctalent. His firm specializes in ABA recruiting for BCBAs, psychologists, SLPs, OTs, operational positions, leadership positions, and much more. He lives in Appleton, Wisconsin, with 2 young kids, and he's an avid Green Bay Packers fan. And welcome to the pod, Jacob.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I want to make one correction. I've got 4 young kids. Instead of I'm doubling up on you right away.
That is 4 young kids. Like, you were fighting the good fight, man. So, like, hats off.
Well, thank you.
And building a business and building an extraordinarily valuable business. But tell me, Jacob, a little more about your entrepreneurial journey with Psyctalent. What inspired you to want to become an entrepreneur?
I've wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was in college. And I got my bachelor's degree in ABA, so I was started my career off in the field, so to speak, as a BCABA, about a decade ago, and realized that I was not cut out to be a clinician. I love ABA, I love helping kids and families, but I am so much more business minded than I am clinically minded. So I found OBM, went and got my master's and PhD in OBM. Combining ABA and business, and absolutely loved it. And the entire time in grad school, I was thinking about different business ideas, things that I could be doing, to start up a business, and just remember fondly a lot of kind of coffees with some classmates about just business ideas and brainstorming, things like that. But I wanted to do it for years, got into consulting, and then had the opportunity just to make the leap into entrepreneurship and started Psyctalent recruiting.
Well, Jacob, what the heck's going on with the talent shortage problem in ABA? I mean, and I keep quoting the 1 in 44 statistic, right? That the CDC comes out with. So, like, we have no end. We have increasing numbers of kiddos and families in need, and yet it feels like the field just can't catch up. What's going on?
Yeah, well, the field can't catch up yet. So if you think about the demand for ABA, it's skyrocketing, and thankfully, of the past few years, there's been more and more BCBAs being created, which is good, but the rate is not anywhere near catching up to the demand for services. So there's just a shortage nationwide for BCBAs. Looking back, we have good data from 2020 from the BACB. They publish a report on job demand for BCBAs and BCABAs across the country, and in 2020. There were 34,000 BCBA job postings, and there were something like 44,000 BCBAs. So there are, and almost all those BCBAs already have a job. So we're almost, we're just over 50% of where we need to be with number of clinicians in the industry, and those trend lines are going to continue to separate as demand for services increases. So it's a pretty substantial issue that people are dealing with, and that's just at the industry level. But if you really break it down to what does that mean for ABA companies, especially small and mid-sized ABA companies, it means that the things that you usually do as a small business to find talent don't work really well. You're just kind of posting and waiting. It doesn't get a lot of applicants coming in, especially for clinicians. So that's where our company comes in. We help ABA companies find the right people.
So, I mean, to solve this problem in our field, is this like we've got to get better recruiting mechanisms in place? Is it focusing on retention? Is it building capacity at like graduate school levels? Like,
there's a lot of different levels of this, and from my OBM background, you're just kind of being a systems thinker. The huge industry-wide problem isn't going to be resolved in the next several years. As long as there's this model where there has to be linear growth in number of clinicians to serve the growth in the number of patients, that the growth curves just aren't going to touch anytime soon. So, but thinking about how you can solve it more at the level of the business, that's a doable thing. That's something that that really can be solved. And you think about what businesses need to be doing to bring in the right people into their organization. It really comes down to actively reaching out to qualified BCBAs, the high quality clinicians that you want to join your team, and presenting them with opportunities to be part of what you're doing and join your mission to really serve the families in your area and serve those kiddos and provide high quality services. And that's something that there's a big difference between the regular job posting and helping people apply and filtering through those, which has worked for years and is now not working well in the ABA space, to this kind of solution, this really active approach in finding the people that you want to join your team and doing what you can on board.
It's interesting. At my organization, Assigned Behavior Partners, our clinicians will report they get at least one outreach a day from recruiters. Right? I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of these that are incoming. How do you differentiate yourself if you're a small business owner and you're trying fighting the good fight with this active outreach method? How do you differentiate yourself in reaching out and building relationships?
It's not easy. So if you're especially if you're a small or mid-sized ABA company and you don't have a talent acquisition team on board right now to really do this work for you, it can be pretty daunting to figure out how you're going to reach out to BCBAs who are, you're right, they're getting solicited by recruiters almost every single day. The way that you're going to show that you're different is you need to first be visible online somehow. So there's your website, which is good, and that should show how you're different. But then there's, what are you doing on social media? Do you have a presence there? Can they find you and see? You don't have to be hyperactive on it, but do you have some kind of presence where people who've never heard of you before could go and find you and learn a little bit about you and see if that's an opportunity that they're interested in? But one thing that a lot of companies are turning to now is increased compensation and pretty substantial sign-on bonuses. You have $10,000, $20,000 sign-on bonuses, and you'll see that in job listings trying to attract people. It's a BCBA position plus 10K sign-on bonus plus 20K sign-on bonus, and these small and mid-sized ABA companies look at those job postings and think, you've got to be kidding me. How on earth am I going to be able to bring in the right BCBAs and attract people when I'm out there competing against this kind of money and this kind of these kind of numbers to attract candidates? Where do I fit in that? And that's where,
Jacob, I mean, do these sign-on? I've seen the same thing, right? And I'm fond of there's the Tahiti vacations, right? I don't know if anyone ever actually uses it, but do sign-on bonuses 10, 20K? Do those actually work?
They do. So if you think about, no, they work, but there's a huge caveat. I don't recommend them. I don't recommend them there in the process. There's a different part in the hiring process that they're really going to help you if you're a small, mid-sized ABA company. What those job postings that have those huge sign-on bonuses listed, they're trying to attract that first level of applicant. They're building the top line of their recruiting funnel. So if you think of a recruiting, it's a lot more like sales than it is like HR. A lot of people think of talent acquisition as this HR type function. It really works a lot more like a sales function does. So you have a candidate funnel. You need a lot of candidates up top, and then every level you move down the funnel, you're going to lose candidates. So people apply, and then you want them to schedule an interview. Not everyone does, so it gets smaller. And then you interview, and you exclude some people or rule some people out, and it gets smaller, and it goes down from there. Those sign-on bonuses at the top of the funnel, they're going to get you more applicants. It's true, but what applicants are they getting you? Are they getting you people who are really bought into your mission and want to work for your company because they believe in what you're doing? Or are they getting the people who took a sign-on bonus 18 months ago to change a job and realize that place isn't a good place for them to work? And now they start looking, and there's another opportunity to pick up a big sign-on bonus if they make a jump. And what do you think is going to happen when you're at your company? So I wouldn't put, our approach isn't to advertise those types of bonuses. right up front in the job posting. Where they really do belong and add a lot of value is in the offer negotiation process. That's where companies should have their bonus available, so that if you make an offer to a candidate and you go back and forth on negotiating with compensation, you have that piece where you can either sweeten the deal or use it as a middle ground, where if they want an increase in base but you can't get there, well, here's a sign-on bonus that helps meet in the middle. So that's a good spot to have those, and that's, I think, where they belong better, and they'll serve you better than putting them right in your job posting.
Interesting. That is a profound insight. I hadn't thought about that, because those job postings, the 20K, always seem like clickbait.
Well,
and
exactly.
As you point out, like little caveats on like who's a break. And but the other thing around it is, what does that say to a BCBA who joined your organization a year ago when you didn't, or 2 years ago you didn't have bonuses, and now new BCBAs who likely don't have much experience, maybe as someone who's been there a year or two, are getting these big bonuses. What does that say to the rest of you?
That's a fantastic point. It's kind of a double culture killer. So you're attracting the wrong people to your company with this sign-on bonus, this huge amount, and then you're also irritating everyone that works for you who didn't get that sign-on bonus when they just go see the job posting there. So that's maybe it's even worse than I originally thought, Jonathan.
Double culture killer might be the most vivid. Oh my gosh! Wow. Coming back to I like your suggestion around the antecedent-based strategies that an ABA practice owner or recruiters or anyone can use. That is, just have a presence online. That's not just like going out asking for someone for something from a BCBA and pitching jobs, but have a presence and show who you are. Where are BCBAs going online, do you find, when they're looking for jobs? What kinds of social media and platforms?
Yeah, so they're on LinkedIn and they're looking there, and then they're on Indeed, and then searching just in Google is the next big thing, because that aggregates a lot of different job boards like Glassdoor and ZipRecruiter. But Facebook is also a great spot for where BCBAs are. There's a difficulty though in recruiting, and you kind of brought it up, this direct outreach constantly. I mean, everyone's bombarded with it. So, it can be a little bit of white noise just to be the next person reaching out directly that way. But if you take a little bit different approach and you think about talent acquisition in ABA from the perspective of the BCBA, you want to show the BCBA how your company and your role and your opportunity is going to play into their story, not the other way around. And that's how almost every job post is written that way, where it's how the BCBA is going to help you instead of how you're going to help the BCBA. So, and that's not, you don't think of it that way. No one goes in intentionally saying, here's how great I am, look at that. But if you read job postings, they're either very, very HR focused and a bunch of text and just awful. If you have a job post that's more than a page long, no one's ever read the whole thing, I promise you. But if you have these shorter job postings and you have this language in there about how this opportunity plays into the life of your candidates, about how this can be a place where, if it's work-life balance that you can offer, what does that look like? Paint a picture of what work-life balance looks like. That means you go home at 4:30 every day or 5:30, or whatever time your clinic closes or you're done with services. That means you don't work on Saturdays ever. We'll never ask you to do that. Saturday, and you need to paint some of this in and help them visualize what their life will look like working for you. And it's not, we've been in business for 10 years and we're in different states and we'll give you 10K to apply. That's not how they are gonna be fulfilled working for you.
I like that insight of make the candidate the hero of the story, right? Don't make it about you. Make it about the candidate and what's going to appeal to them. A, B, paint an actual picture for them. Because I gotta think, when if someone's looking for a job, how long are they going to spend actually reading a resume? How long do you have to catch their attention?
Seconds. That's for real. And if you're posting a job on these job boards where everyone else is posting too, the next, if you're not capturing their attention quickly, the next job ad is a click away. And somebody's on the same screen. They don't have to click away. They can just, open their eyes and they're on the next opportunity.
Scroll up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So let's dive deeper into what BCBAs are looking for, just based on our experience, talking with hundreds and thousands of them. The big drivers for BCBAs for taking a new job, you got to think about the pain points that they might be experiencing in their current job. These are pain points that are across a lot of companies in the industry, and they're pretty built in structurally, and it's difficult to avoid some of them. So BCBAs are, by and large, overworked. They work long hours and longer than they were promised. BCBAs don't typically feel underpaid. That's kind of a misnomer. Pay isn't a good driver of retention. It's a really good driver of attraction. So it's a good driver for someone to leave your company when they're attracted by a higher number, but there's not a lot of people who think, yeah, I'm underpaid, let me go look. That's not what we typically see in ABA. So you have this, this person who's overworked. When they went into the ABA field and they discovered ABA, there's kind of a couple different tracks for people to discover ABA. One is they went to undergrad, psych major. They took an intro to ABA class, and their eyes were opened. That's how I found it. I was a psych major and found ABA, and I was like, this makes so much sense. And it's not this, kind of pie in the sky. What do you think about failings? It's like, okay, we actually have a science of how we can, analyze behavior. And you go through this, the ABA coursework as an undergrad and grad student, and you learn so much about the science and so much about how you can help people with it. And quality is such a focus and such a virtue in those programs. So these BCBAs want to be part of helping people with high quality, high fidelity services. And a lot of ABA companies struggle to maintain that level of service as they grow, because there are other business needs, and growth and quality those are difficult things to manage together. It can be done, but it's not easy. So a lot of BCBAs struggle with, I know what really high quality ABA looks like, and we're doing okay. We're doing our best, but it's not really high quality ABA like I know from grad school, like I know from this internship I had, like I know from this university clinic I worked at with big names in the field, and that's what I want. So if you can give someone that mission and purpose of come work with us and do this really high quality ABA that you were trained to do, and really live out that mission that you've been wanting to live out for years of grad school and now the first few years of your career. And we're going to provide you that opportunity, instead of focusing on you hitting this number of billable hours, you hitting this kind of metric. Come here and let's focus really on changing the lives of these kids and their families. And we want to give you all of these opportunities to just really wow them with what you can do, and to really use all those great skills that you've acquired, and be that expert that you really are. And a lot of BCBAs they don't feel treated that way at most companies. But if you can give them the opportunity to do that, that's super, super attractive to BCBAs. But the difficulty comes in with almost every ABA company will say that to a candidate, or something like that. Right? You can say we have great culture, we provide high quality services. Do that. Where we come in kind of as a third party recruiter is that we're able to tell them the truth about what different companies are, and really highlight those aspects that match up with what they're looking for, based on their career goals. And we get to know our clients and know what quality looks like at these companies, know what their culture looks like, and then we don't take it at face value. Like, we ask a bunch of follow-up questions. Like, hey, you say you have great culture. What does that mean? Tell me about what you're doing to actually live out this great culture, because we want to take these examples and show them to candidates and say that we work with a bunch of different companies. We don't if there's any unethical practices, things like that, we don't represent those companies, but there are companies that really excel on the culture side of it, and I think Ascend is one of them. And there are companies that really excel on providing rapid career growth, but let's be frank, culture is not their big thing. but you can make a lot of money there. Well, which one are you a fit for? Are you looking for aggressive career growth? Or are you looking for this culture fit and high quality services? And we can talk about what that means. But we're seen as more of a third party. You can evaluate this and help show candidates where they're going to be valued the most in the way that they want to be valued. And it's a little bit harder message if you're selling it yourself for your company. It definitely can be done, but that's a hurdle to overcome.
Yeah. I love that idea, almost being like, as an executive recruiter, you are an ombudsman, an independent sort of entity that comes between companies and that. Well, and so full disclosure, both my organizations, Ascend Behavior Partners and Element RCM, have been Psyctalent customers in 2021. And Jacob, you have helped us like so tremendously, like it literally phenomenal across all kinds of different positions. That's the other crazy part. And so tell me, like, what's the secret sauce of Psyctalent, and how have you been so successful recruiting?
Yeah, the secret sauce of Psyctalent. I don't think we're bringing something to the table that, as far as like tools we use and things like that other companies are using. But where we're different is we are exclusively in ABA, and we know ABA inside and out, and we know BCBAs inside and out, and that's our focus. So when we go out and start recruiting for a position, we make sure that we know the company that we're recruiting for. We know what makes them different. We know what makes them unique, and we know what they're looking for in a candidate. Then we go out and use our database of people that we've already know, and our relationships that we've established in our network. But we also start searching for people to add to that list. And then we go through an interview process with each one of these candidates and make sure that they fit exactly what our clients are looking for. And that sounds kind of straightforward, but in recruiting world, there's such a temptation almost for these other recruiting companies to just get as many resumes as you can and send them out and hope for the best. But that's not actually helping companies hire the right people. And that's what we want to do. We're really committed to helping, especially small and mid-sized ABA companies, find the right BCBAs, find the right clinical leaders, find the right executives, so that they can serve their families and grow their business. And that's what we do in this space. And it's a lot of hard work. Recruiting isn't. It's straightforward, but it's not easy. So that's where we put in a lot of the legwork, and we really go to bat for you.
I particularly loved and appreciated the time you took to get to know us. That really is deeply meaningful to be able to point the candidate in one direction versus another provider direction, because you know them so well. And then the other thing you did that was so cool is you always had those 4-minute video clips that you'd send over. So it was almost like this: you had interviewed someone, but I got to know them a little bit. And that was super helpful.
And we love doing that. We do that with some of our leadership and executive positions, those video clips. Because if we're going to be interviewing people and sending them to you, every candidate that we send, obviously you get the resume, and then you get a write-up, summary of who they are, where they're located, are they open to relocation, what compensation are they looking for, are they values aligned, culture fit with you, if there's any yellow flags, we'll kind of call them out and let you make a judgment call on that. But then with these leadership and executive positions, we can actually record part of that interview and send it to you so that you get a chance. You don't have to feel like you have to invest all this time scheduling a hour-long interview with someone just to find out 2 minutes in that they're not the right fit. Well, if we can just send you a 4-minute video, then it'll be pretty clear to you if they're not the right fit. You're just on that obvious first pass right away, and then you can really use your time wisely.
Jacob, you recently told me an insane stat that something like 10% of the workforce has resigned in the last 90 days. What the hell is going on? What's this great resignation?
Yeah, the great resignation. And that 10% statistic it sounds outlandish, but it's just under 10%. It's pretty close though. You're looking at 3.5 to almost 4.25%, 4.5% of the workforce quitting each month over the past few months. Which is absolutely insane. But if you look at why people are quitting and what they're looking for, they're not quitting and leaving the workforce right now. They're leaving their jobs and looking for an upgrade. looking for something that has better hours, better culture, better pay, better title, a leadership opportunity. So we're seeing a lot of that, and the turnover it's even more pronounced in the healthcare industry by and large. And then I know a lot of companies are feeling it in ABA, especially with behavior techs. So it is completely a candidate-driven market right now, really unlike anything we have ever seen in the modern economy. How much candidates have control of the situation right now, because they can. There are so many companies that are desperate to get the right people on board, and the candidate can fill out a job application and be interviewing 3-4 places in 24 hours if they want to. And that's the truth of the situation right now. But the Great Resignation is really really highlighting the importance of employee retention, especially in ABA. If you can, as important as bringing the right people in is to your company, keeping the right people is even more important than bringing the right ones in.
I so appreciate that you said that, because I do hear a lot of teeth gnashing around, the Great Resignation, almost like there's a defeatist, like there's nothing we can do. But doesn't it feel like the first step is not like how do we recruit better, but like turn ourselves inward and think about like how do we improve culture?
Yeah, the first step is how do you retain people in your company, and that comes into. That's what culture really is for your company. And that's one of the greatest measures you can have of culture is, do people actually stay in your company? And then what do people in your company, what would they say about working there to other people who don't work there? Those are two like real down and dirty measures of culture right there. So if you're having a high turnover problem, the number one reason you can look at Gallup for this, the number one reason people leave their jobs is because of their boss. It's because of their direct supervisor. And there's something like 40% of people who leave because of their direct supervisor say that they would take the job back if their supervisor was replaced. And if you think about it, like that's the person that has the most influence over over your day-to-day work life. That's the person who has that's a person that is able to praise you and provide you with reinforcement, or is able to make it a pretty aversive, pretty negative place for you to work. And having good leaders is one of the cornerstones of being able to have good culture in your company and reinforce the right behaviors and make sure that the wrong ones aren't taking place.
So this is like doubly the importance of having happy BCBAs, if I hear you right. Like is not just you want to retain the BCBA, but if a BCBA is not feeling like they're being invested in, taken care of, their career path is not being shaped, then it means they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, however many RBTs they supervise are probably not getting the quality.
The cascading effect of it is it's kind of scary to think about, but you can flip it on its head and it's really powerful. Okay, so are you telling me if I really invest in one person in my company that can actually have a positive impact on 8 other people in my company? If you think about it that way, then it's pretty exciting to think about investing in your BCBAs, investing in your leaders to make sure that they have what they need to do their job well, that they have good work-life balance, that they know that you as a higher up leader and as your company are going to be with them for the long term, that you're not just using them to get revenue in the door, which is how some BCBAs feel at some companies, but you're actually investing in them because you want them to be the best person they can be the best leader they can be the best clinician they can be, and provide those new skills and opportunities to really grow that way. You're not just investing in one person in your company, you're investing in that person and then how they interact with their coworkers, and especially how they interact with people who they lead.
Well, so this comes to like, how do you like have the right set of mechanisms in your interview process to really both allow a candidate to contact your culture, what's special about it, but also like to be efficient. So, and this is where I always think, Jacob, like interviewing is a little bit of art, a little bit of science, a little bit of reading the tea leaves, and who knows what else. Right. Like, what are some best practices for interviewing that are going to improve a company's success?
Yeah, think about what's the purpose of interviewing. Most companies are going to say, well, I interview so I make sure I don't hire a bozo and I hire the right person. Oh, good. I mean, that's one of the functions of interviewing. The other one is especially now is selling your company and making it an appealing place that someone would want to work. So and that part is so frequently forgotten about or not emphasized enough in the interview process. So, good interviewing practice. You want to interview candidates for the same position the same way. That's kind of the first ground rule is that you're sending them through about the same number of interviews, and in interview number one, you're looking just broad fit on these 3 or 4 characteristics or bits of experience, and you're doing that for every candidate. So that way, it's even and fair, and it's actually a good measurement tool for you. I mean, if you think about the basics of measuring something, I think any behavior analyst would know this. You can't change the ruler as every time you can measure something to know what you're doing. So that's why it's important to keep it pretty much the same as you go through. Now, you're looking for the same pieces of information, but you need to be conversational about it. You need to be relatable, and you need to show the candidate that this is a place where they can fit in and that they're wanted, not a place where they have to really clear a high bar just to get in and then not fit. So there still is this high bar that you're setting, but your questions and your tone are not demanding that they clear this. Your conversation is leading to that information coming out, and that's one thing that we do in our conversations with candidates is that first initial call that we have with them. In about 2 to 3 minutes, people go from like really formal, you kind of scripted answers to we kind of disarm them of all that and bring it down to more conversational. But then we have very specific points that we are going to work into every single conversation to make sure that we're getting the right information out of candidates that we need to in as pleasant a way as possible. And it's the things that they get out of any interview, but we're having a really kind of career guide oriented conversation with them. And that's the way that you should be talking with them as well. And instead of just trying to bring them into your organization, you can even see, okay, is this a fit for you? Or there there might be another fit for you that's not with us. And I just want the best for all people involved. So that's the first part of interviewing. Then you want to do your structured process after that about your culture. And one of the best ways to do that is to expose them to good influences in your culture. So who are those leaders? Who are those BCBAs? Who are those behavior techs that really are the staples of culture in their part of the business? And give them some tools to be able to have a conversation and evaluate people based on that culture. And they're going to have a good feel for it. If they're good at in your culture, they're going to have a good feel for it if that person's going to be a fit. But make sure that they have to hear the 3 or 4 things that we want you to look for and evaluate this person on based on the conversation.
Powerful. Introduce them to those strong culture influencers so they can contact, right? They actually can see, touch. There's also some important legal and sort of compliance considerations when it comes to interviewing. You mentioned the importance of asking the same questions of each candidate, though that could be conversational. Are there any others that ABA practice owners and interviewers should?
Yeah, there are a list of no-go topics and questions for you talking with candidates that put you in a really tight spot once you ask them and actually open you to a lawsuit that you will almost certainly lose should you go down that road. So anything that's protected status or protected class, you can't be asking about that in an interview. So you can't and shouldn't ask if someone is married in an interview. That's a protected piece of protected status. You can't use it at all to make a decision. And even if you're not going to make a decision on it, if you just ask that question to the candidate, you now are liable for go wrong and they don't like the decision you made and they want to. They can demonstrate that you asked that question. Now, how are you going to demonstrate you didn't use that information? That's the tough spot. So it's best not to ask questions on race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, marital status, religion. You can't ask questions on that. But there are other ways that you can get the information that you really do need to know, but that might seem to violate that protected status, but actually doesn't. So one example would be you can't ask someone if they go to church on Sunday. You can't ask that in an interview. But you could say the reason you want to know is because you want them to work on Sunday mornings, or whatever reason. You could say, hey, this position requires you to work, one Sunday morning a month. Are you able to do that? Now that candidate can answer that question, but if you just asked, hey, do you go to church every Sunday? Now you're in a situation where information that you can't use to make a decision, and they know that information, and you're in a tight spot now.
Well, one thing I've heard, Jake, is that like stay interviews are like the new exit interviews. So tell us, this comes back, I think, to the retention question we were talking about earlier. Like, what's a stay interview, and why are they so impactful?
Yeah, a stay interview. If you think about what an exit interview is, someone said they're going to leave your company, and now you're going to ask them why they're leaving, and you're going to see what you can do to make it so that the next good person doesn't leave your company. Well, what's a better thing to do, especially if your company's been around for a few years and you have to have great data here, but you can just kind of do a look back and see who's left our company the past 2 years. When did they leave the company in respect to how long they've been there? Did they leave after 6 months of being there? Did they leave after 3 years of being there? Let's find out when people are leaving during their job tenure, leaving our company. Let's say we come up with behavior techs, and it's 9 months in, we're having a lot of behavior techs leave. Let's go and make sure that at the 3 month and 5 month and 7 month mark, we are meeting with the behavior techs to ask them some of the types of questions that we would ask in an exit interview before they even tell us that they're looking to leave the company. Because chances are that they've started thinking about that earlier than the 9 month mark. They've started thinking about it earlier. So if you can ask the questions to them, you can actually surface some of those issues and address them right now, so you don't lose good people. And then it also serves as a double effect of you have this information where you can start to make systematic changes in your company and your culture so that these aren't problems for the next people coming up. So you get to save people who are good from leaving your company, and you get to improve your culture based on that, instead of just asking people why they're leaving.
So it's an antecedent-based
exactly.
management strategy as opposed to something reactive for exit interviews. And I mean, anyone likes to be asked, how are you doing? And how are things going? And so genuinely reaching out and engaging and getting their feedback. And oh, by the way, if you're able to do the most important part, which is address it, that builds trust.
Oh, absolutely.
It feels like. So that's
absolutely. And just being able to have a genuine conversation about it and bring up the real issues. And it's the same way in interviewing candidates for your company, to bring up the real issues and what they're really looking for and what the real pain points are that they're having and what their real aspirations are. Once you know those things and they know, that's half the battle. Because people aren't, a lot of people aren't upfront with the information. That's pretty close to the heart. But if you can get to some of those things and address them and say, hey, you didn't know, you feel like you don't have good career path here. Oh, let's talk about that. No, let's show you what so-and-so did in our company. And let's sit down and meet with you next week, and we're going to go through and build out a path for you to move into that position that you want to move into, and we'll make sure that we get you the trainings that you need, and you can spend a week shadowing that person, and you can do these different things. And we really want you here, and we're so glad that you're on our team. And having that conversation 2 months before they're likely to quit is so much more impactful than after they quit and asking them and seeing if there's something you do to salvage the situation.
Amen. Well, Jacob, you're a systems thinker, and so I need your help with this one. There's 6,000 ABA organizations out there, and many are growing quickly, and they need to make decisions about, do I build an internal recruiting team or do I outsource it, hire a Psyctalent or another executive recruiter? So help me understand, what's a framework that an ABA practice owner or leader should use to make the decision insource versus outsource?
There's a few different factors that play into it. One that really needs to be made when you're looking at bringing in a completely new function into your company and building a team around that, that has to be cost justified. You don't want to build your own recruiting team if you're hiring 5-6 BCBAs in a year. That's not going to work out for you. But if you're looking to hire 10 BCBAs this year and a bunch of behavior techs, and you're expanding into these new markets, and you're growing this way and that way, then it's probably going to be a good thing for you to go down that road and see if it is the right fit for you. The way that I see it is, when should you use a recruiter? And the answer is not always. It's far more efficient if you can bring in the right people for yourselves, right? That's gonna help you grow faster, and it's going to be more cost effective, and it's the right fit long term for a lot of companies. And on day one, you need to be making sure you have a good job posting and reaching out to your network and actively recruiting and selling your position, and interviewing well, and then making a good offer. And we've got a whole guide that will walk you through how to do that. So if you're a small ABA company and you're wondering what you can be doing to really move the needle in recruiting, I've got a guide for you to go download. It's at psyctalent.com/recruit. There's a free guide that will walk you through how to start recruiting on your own, because that truly is going to be the best solution if you can do it yourself. As you grow, you want to look at what it takes to bring in a team internally, and it really depends on where you're going as a business. So having a recruiting pain right now isn't a real justification to build a whole team internally. And think about recruiting as you would almost any other business support function. The best thing to do when you're small is to outsource that. You're going to get a really high level of knowledge and expertise at a lower cost than bringing that in-house. And that's going to help you, especially early on, to grow without having to have the full risk and the full investment of bringing a team. But when you start looking at the volume of placements that you're going to need to be able to get to grow, achieve your business growth plans, then that's the time when you want to start looking at bringing this in internally. And step one is really getting the right leader in place. So if you can get the right leader in place to build out your recruiting team, that makes a world of difference, because then you've really brought in someone who can grow it for you versus brought in a new cost center that you have to figure out how to manage and grow yourself. So that's always the first big domino to fall when you're looking at making that investment. And you kind of price it out and say, it's going to be better for us long term to have this team internally. That's step one.
Start with the right. If you are going to start with the right
Correct.
leader. Yeah, I love that. Love it. It's interesting because, as we think about it, what was that stat? 4% of the workforce is leaving every month. Isn't there a flip side to that equation? That means there's a great opportunity now. If you are looking for candidates, there's lots of candidates available and open to work. Am I thinking about that right, or should I think about that?
I think about it. Well, if only it worked that way, but it's not shaping out that way. So the highest amount of turnover is happening at direct labor and direct care level positions across the country. And if you think about, so it's really impacting in ABA, that's behavior techs. And if you think about bringing in behavior technicians to your company, there are very few ABA companies that feel like they've got as many behavior techs as they need, and it's really easy to find the next one. If you're in that spot, congratulations, put your feet up on the desk. You've earned the rest. But most companies really are struggling getting behavior techs in. And in all honesty, that's not a position that we recruit for very often. It's not something, we don't do the high volume recruiting work. But across the country, the behavior tech workforce, just as far as skill set, experience, compensation, for entry level behavior techs, that's the same labor market that convenience stores hire, that Amazon warehouses hire, that senior care facilities hire, that hospitals hire for CNAs, and all that it takes to really shift that market, especially if you're in a smaller region, you're not in a major metro area. All that needs to happen is an Amazon warehouse to open in your town and say we need to hire 400 people, at 15 or 17 an hour. And now there's this really tight labor crunch in that pool right where you are. And the manufacturing companies are going through the same thing. And it's all that similar broad strokes labor pool that is having this super high turnover, and especially in direct care, in any aspect of healthcare, that's always a high stress, high turnover position compared to other industries. It's no different in ABA. I don't know how we'll fully solve the problem. There are things that definitely can be done to improve the situation by making your place a great place to work and a place people want to stay, and a place where people can grow.
Yeah. Well, let's say you could wave your magic wand and solve the turnover problem in our field. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, to solve the turnover problem in the field, think about it you take a little bit of a behavioral approach to it, and just think about the decision to leave in two ways. One, what makes someone want to leave a spot? If it's aversive, right? If it's a negative place for them to work, and what makes someone want to go somewhere else? If it's better over there, if there's more reinforcement available for making that decision, going over there. And that's where to wave a magic wand, you need to have a great culture. You need to be doing things like stay interviews. You need to have growth opportunities within your company for people. And even if you're a small company that seems like it's impossible because you don't have a corporate ladder for someone to work up, you can still be having those one-on-one conversations about what do you want to be doing career-wise? Where do you want to be? How do we get you there? And provide those opportunities. And it's actually be more impactful than if you had this huge corporate ladder for someone to climb with the next 8 steps of their career mapped out. So be doing that, making sure that they have the ability to grow within your company without having to leave the next place. The pay piece, pay isn't a huge driver of retention. Pay is a big driver of attraction. So you need to be paying well enough where making the leap to leave your company to go somewhere else isn't just an obvious no-brainer decision for them. Like, okay, that pays 20 grand more for the same position and it looks like a cool company. Well, that decision's already made. But if it's, we're in the same ballpark, and is it worth leaving for a few $1,000s for a place that I don't know and I'm not sure what their culture is, and I have a really great here, and I get to go home and be with my kids at night, and I get to do all these other things that I really want to do. That's where the pay piece comes into play a bit. So I would really focus on on those aspects of it, making sure you have a good culture, a career growth track for your people. Where pay is equitable in the market. You don't have to be top of market, but enough where people don't obviously leave. And then the other thing is you need to hire good people. You need to hire well. And that means you need to be good at selecting the right people to come into your organization, people who aren't likely to leave after 6 or 9 months, people who are likely to be successful working in ABA.
Well, Jacob, what's one thing every ABA business owner and leader should start doing? And what's one thing they should stop doing?
You should stop posting jobs and waiting. Waiting is not a talent acquisition strategy. You need to be active in getting the right people in. And we talk with a lot of ABA companies across the country, and the number of times we hear that they posted a job 6 months ago and they had no applicants at all. It's incredible hearing that. And that's not a spot you should be in, right? There's things that you can be doing. And again, we've got that guide you can go and look at, and to do some of it yourself, because you could have success this way. And psyctalent.com/recruit, get the guide. You'll be able to start recruiting on your own for BCBAs. So stop posting and waiting for someone to apply, and start reaching out and searching for the right candidate to join your company.
Well said. Well, Jacob, throw one question at me, anything, and make me answer on the spot.
What, in growing Ascend, what was the biggest problem that you had that just was an absolute nightmare? And how did you solve it?
There's a lot we haven't solved. So I think we have been entirely remote. We're headquartered in Denver, but we operate in Colorado, Arizona, Texas. We don't have centers. We don't have fancy Tahiti vacations or $20,000 signing bonuses. We literally only have our people. but because we're entirely remote, like there is an extraordinary level of intention that we had to take to make sure that we were, I mean, the basics of like, how do you interview from afar to how do you communicate your values consistently? How do you make sure that when you're not there, right? Like that someone, a BCBA and RBT is communicating your values. When a family asks like, hey, and this happens all the time, by the way. So ABA providers, listen up. Every single family will ask the RBT, hey, how does this company treat you? So the question is, when you're not there to answer the way you want it to be answered, how was your team answering that? And so that was something that, that was something that we had to, and I directly, so like early on, back in 2017, 2018, I would literally, I'd actually like just show up like Phoenix and I'd go and like outside someone's house. It wasn't creepy. I set it up in a way hopefully that it wasn't, but I got to see sessions. I got to see our team in action. I got to like hear feedback from an RBT directly, hear from the family. But that was really important when we recognized that level of intention of how we had to train, shape our team, coach them, provide the career pathing and professional development opportunities. I mean, there's so much that goes into that. You can't get it right from the absolute get-go, but be asking what behaviors are getting reinforced when I'm not around.
That is huge. And it's true even in center-based ABA companies. You said that you're entirely wrong. Your therapy isn't remote. Your therapy is
yeah, correct. Yes. Yeah, that's right.
The entire organizational structure of your company is remote, right? You guys don't go to offices and where you guys work remotely, which I want to circle back to that real quick. But being able to know what behaviors are reinforced when you're not there, that's gold right there. So every ABA company can be thinking about that, and then how do you go and find the information out? And it's not this deep, creepy investigation. It's conversations and setting the example by reinforcing those behaviors yourselves for other people, and reinforcing those people when you see them reinforcing those behaviors and others. Right? It's just some pretty basic OBM stuff, but it's easy to say and it's hard to do. But right. I want to jump back real quick. You are an entirely remote ABA company. Obviously, the services are provided directly at home, but everything about your company otherwise is remote. And there's one thing that is a huge advantage to that post-COVID. I mean, sure, going through COVID, you didn't have to make the big transition that a lot of other companies had to make. Yeah. But one thing now that puts you guys in a different in a more advantageous position, especially when recruiting people and recruiting leaders in your company, is that you can have people work remote. And one change that we've seen from pre-COVID to post-COVID is people's willingness to relocate has plummeted because they confirmed their suspicion that they can work remote and be good at their job. Now, it doesn't mean that companies loved that, right? That was a big stress for a lot of companies. A lot of companies are built with this culture being, clinic-based or being office-based, and that's really important to them. But now there's this reality where the talent pool, people that we otherwise would have been able to get to relocate for really cool new opportunities, won't do it because they say, I just did this job remote for 2 years and I did it really well, and I know I can do that. And that's whatever I take next is going to be remote or remote plus travel. And there's a big section of the especially leadership level talent pool that actually just gets smaller when you require the position to be in person, smaller than it used to be, which is pretty crazy to think about. But any company that can have that flexibility to say, even if you're a center-based or office-based company, to have that flexibility and say, we'll do remote or remote plus some regular travel. Like you got to be on site for strategy stuff. You got to be on site, on a monthly basis, something like that. But if if you can set up where they can actually do that job remote and you get really good at video meetings and touching base that way and get good on some collaborative technology, you open up the talent pool for your position exponentially, because now you've allowed the entire nation to be your talent pool instead of just your one location and people who already live there or who are actively trying to move there.
So that applies for leadership positions, but potentially other sort of the critical back office support functions.
Anything. It's not going to apply well for clinical positions in ABA. I mean, there's the whole funding issue with your telehealth that is a topic for another show, I think. But any back office support person, anyone who's billing, you're scheduling, accounting, all of these things are jobs that are done already heavily, computer-based positions without constant direct, conversation and communication to get the job done. So they actually can be done pretty easily remotely. And you can set up where there's really good communication too, right? Being remote doesn't mean there's no communication or bad communication or people aren't working. You can set up some good processes and good checks on their performance to make sure that things are getting done and really open up the talent pool in a way that in the history of the world has never been open before. And now you have access to that if you're able to support a remote position.
So this is like a new age that we have. And a new
right. Yeah. Don't think of it as a liability. Think about like you're one of the first companies in the history of the world that can actually do this.
Wow. Powerful. Oh, so powerful. All right, Jacob, before we go to the hot take questions, where can people find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Jacob Bradley, PhD. It should be pretty easy to find. Connect with me, message me directly. Love to have a conversation about anything in ABA and business. It's really a passion of mine. OBM, I love talking about that. And then on psyctalent.com, our website, it's psyctalent.com. And then don't forget, you can get that guide of how to start recruiting yourself in ABA. That's psyctalent.com/recruit.
And we'll make sure to drop that in the show notes. So, all right, Jacob, are you ready for rapid fire? Quick, short answer, hot takes. Here we go. You're on your deathbed. What's the one thing you want to be remembered for?
I want to remember being a good follower of Christ and a good husband and a good father. None of those things.
What's your most important self-care practice?
I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. Before my kids wake up, and I'm reading and praying, and I do that every morning.
Oh, that is discipline, ladies and gentlemen. So if you could cancel all meetings, skip all your responsibilities for a day, how would you?
I would go skiing in Colorado.
Oh, love it. And you're always welcome here. Which team are you most happy when the Packers beat?
So everyone's going to think I'm going to say the Bears, but it's the Vikings because they've, the Bears fans you can at least respect because it's an old and historic and established team. If you don't like it, but you respect them a little bit. But the Vikings, I mean, there's just no excuse.
Oh my gosh! All right, well then I have to ask, Brett Favre in a word.
Gunslinger.
Yes. Oh, that guy's the cannon.
That's
like
right.
No other. If you could give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Focus on serving other people and creating value for other people. That's something that I've learned in the past few years, that there's way more, you'll grow way more that way, and you'll have way more joy in your life that way than you're trying to acquire things for yourself.
All right. And you can only wear one style of footwear for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Ski boots. You can't ride real well in them, but you can have a lot of fun in them.
Yeah. So well said. Jacob, this has been awesome.
Thanks, Jonathan.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Building Better Businesses in ABA podcast. Stay tuned for our next exciting episode. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. We value your feedback. Don't forget to follow us on social media at elementrcm.ai.